Greetings and thank you for joining us. This is ETV English Special Programs and I'm Kiana Baina, your host for today. In today's special program, we will be looking into the International Youth Fellowship, or IYF for short. The IYF was established in 2001 as a worldwide youth organization and an international NGO to raise leaders with a global insight through youth education, social service, local and international exchange, and cultural activities, and to provide realistic solutions to problems in the global village. And today we'll be looking at its activities in Africa and in Ethiopia specifically, what it can do for the youth and what experiences we can share. For the discussion, I am joined by Teo Kang, who is the director of IYF in Eswatini, and Simon Yang, who is the country director of IYF in Zimbabwe. Thank you both very much for joining us. All right, so to start us off, I want to look very briefly into IYF since I haven't given us the full picture. I want you guys to give us an insight into what IYF does and what it stands for. So let me start with you, Teo Kang, please.
IYF was established, as you introduced, in 2001 with the goals and objective to empower the young global youth in the world. The youth are the future of next generation and the main asset of the global village. So the founder of IYF, who is the Reverend and Dr. Oksu Park, he established this International Youth Fellowship to train all the young people, global youth, to become a youth leader. I mean the citizens and who can become a global leader in the near future. So we provide various activities such as mind education, because the young people who possess the wholesome value and the sound mindset, they can really contribute a lot for their society. So we train the young people with mind education and as well as cultural exchange program and many activities, academies, more especially in Africa, computer or sewing, practical life skill, so that the young people can be empowered. That's the goals and objective of IYF, and it was established by our Reverend and Dr. Oksu Park.
All right, so to have a lot, to look into some of the activities of IYF towards the goals that you just mentioned and towards the purpose of our IYF, would you please enlighten us on some of the activities that IYF is engaged in? Let me go to you, Mr. Simon.
Okay, so one of our main program is called Mind Education, as you have mentioned. The Mind Education is such a special program that none other institute have ever developed or made. It designs and changes the mindset of the people. Like if we take it back to the history of South Korea, like in 1950s, like Korea went through the civil war and ended up dividing the country into North and South. And then that time Korea was officially ranked at the second most poor country in the world. But in 2023, Korea is 6th richest country in the world. Yet there has been no natural resources such as stone materials or crude oil, but then only resources that we could make the most use of was the human resources. So Korea people, by changing the mindset, we were able to develop the country. So coming from that practical examples, we have taken the concept of changing the mindset. Well, we couldn't change the environment or the condition of the country, but we could at least change the mindset that has brought great change in the country. So with this mindset education, we have changed the minds of the youth in the world. Well, the youth are talented, but at the same time they are vulnerable. They can easily affected by the environment and easily can complain or not cherish or appreciate what they have in their life. But then with this education, we give them positive mindset and also give them the spirit to challenge themselves and to transcend their boundaries. And so this is one of our main program.
All right, so since you said something about, South Korea being able to change the mindset of the young people and also the rest of the citizens to take the country out of the situation it's in and to bring it to the position, I want to ask you to describe, the mindset that the youth of today could use to navigate the challenge of a developing country, since South Korea has passed through that. Now, as IYF, what would you say is the mindset that is needed for the youth? Would you please go ahead?
We empathize the three factors of the mind education. The first one is deep thinking. Every individual must be able to think deeply rather than thinking just the first or second level of understanding or react into the reality. So the mind education navigate people to think deeply. And second, we do teach and guide people to control their desires, which is self-control. Although the car has a strong engine and powerful horsepower, but if it doesn't have the functional brakes, the car can easily cause accident. So in such aspect, we train the young people to control their desire so that they are able to build their future in a bright way. And the third, we empathize and teach collaboration, cohesion, because men cannot live individually. So we all live in a global and human social environment. So as long as we share understanding, ideas, and get advice from senior or friends, those who have a good example, then they can, we all can be able to, we'll be able to live happy and a successful life. For example, in terms of deep thinking, people, more especially the young people, they easily react according to the reality and situation. That's why they cause a lot of trouble, and the consequence of not thinking deeply cause a lot of troubles in their life. But not every youth who are in the vulnerable situation live miserable life. For example, I would like to give one of the good example from youth, William Kamkwamba from Malawi. When he was 19 years old, he invented a windmill made out of the bicycle and just local scrap materials. And he eventually succeeded inventing the windmill in his area, and his story was introduced in the global society. So he ended up got a scholarship to study in the USA. His family's great asset was a bicycle. His father always ride a bicycle and transport some of the thing. That was only the transport for their family. But barely getting the permission from his father, and he used the bicycle wheel and used scrap materials, and he succeeded to make that windmill. So when I think about that William Kamkwamba's story, born in a very vulnerable situation, and he didn't have any good environment or good condition, good motivation, but through power of deep thinking and resistance, that he never gave up, and through the thinking and collaborating with his friends, supporting each other, they were able to make it. This is the same concept of teachings of mind education. Our founder, ever since 2001, when he has trained all the youth of global youth with this mind education, I am also one of the beneficiaries because I met this IYF when I was young. He consistently taught us how to think deeply, not just thinking first or second level of thinking. For example, when young people face poverty, or difficulty, they easily give up, thinking of, I don't have any condition, I don't have any background, I don't have any resource. What can I do? So they just think that I am vulnerable, I am poor, I am miserable. But if we, through this mind education, if we can have different perspective of our life, even in that difficult situation, we are far able to confront the situation and overcome it and succeed in life and live happy life.
Yeah, very interesting and also a very inspirational story from back from Malawi, I suppose. And so now you talked a lot about the young people and what the young people need to do in terms of the mindset. And as you know, Africa is a very young continent that has a lot of the youth population. So I'm slowly bringing us to IYF's activities in Africa. And since you mentioned some very interesting ways of making the youth's mindset kind of improve and kind of become productive and successful and all of the things that you mentioned, now I want to look into the experiences that IYF can share for African youth or can share with African youth in terms of all the situations or all the activities that you mentioned. Can you please, Mr. Simon, take us over some of the activities of IYF in Africa?
Okay, thank you. So most countries in Africa, we IYF have branches and we conduct various programs, but mainly to transform and reform the mindset of the youth. But to change the mindset, but not only through the lectures, but also through many training programs, we have impacted the youth. For example, in case of Ethiopia, so far we have addressed to 8.1 million youth through various programs. I can come up with about 10 major categories of activities, such as firstly, the first one is a mindset education, and after the education, we also try to give a different platform for the youth in the world, but mostly in Ethiopia. For example, in 2018, we had 9th Africa Universities game in Mekelle University. That time, we had recruited about 1,000 volunteers, and then we trained them to be the global worker, for them to have the global sense of ushering, management, and the communication to usher 10,000 people to the African game. And also, we had a marathon, and also we had a Korean class, and K-pop class, and Taekwondo training as well. I hope you know Taekwondo, the traditional martial arts of Korea. So by providing them these various kind of programs, we actually promote the spirit of enlightening their minds, because usually the youth, as they are vulnerable and they are accustomed to the environment that they are in, but by providing the new platform for them, actually it opens their eyes up. So anyway, apart from that, we also had a cleaning campaign that we recruited the volunteers from the different provinces in Ethiopia and have cleaned some significant areas in Ethiopia. And by doing that, the youth have gained the confidence and the pleasure and also the patriotism for the country as well.
Right. So now talking about areas that for the youth can work on, one of the most important places for young people is the school, which is the education sector, and it's supposedly the first place or the second next to the family where they can really work on their mindset and how their brain works or how they think. So I'm going to bring us to the education sector. Now, I saw something back from a couple of years back when Prime Minister Hailemariam Desalegn was in office, and Director Park had an agreement with him regarding the education sector in Ethiopia. So now I'm going to pose this question for either one of you, and one of you can take that up. So let's look at IYF's engagements in the education sector.
Yes, as you mentioned, our founder, Reverend Oksu Park, he met the former His Excellency Prime Minister
Hailemariam Desalegn,
Yes, Desalegn. So through the meeting, he really recognized and realized the importance and the value of this mind education, not only for the youth, for even the government leaders. So since then, we have trained many government officials and ministries, different ministries, and the civil servants. So we visited many different ministries to train the senior government officials through this mindset education program, which really enlightened them to have a global mindset, how they can really help the society and the citizens through their service. The individual government officials have a healthy and selfless mindset. We understand and we can see the bright fruits among the citizens. So for that point, we also try to enhance the public service through training the government officials as well as regional offices, and we provide mind lecture and mind recreation so that they are able to enhance their service for the community and even for society. And yes, we do also teach, visit schools and provide mind education program for the students. And we are also planning to have a institute focusing on this mindset education program with Ministry of Education, so that we will be able to enlarge the territory of this mindset beneficiary.
All right. So now moving on from that, as an international youth fellowship, how does the IYF create stronger ties between the youth of the world? Because now in a very increasingly globalizing world, the world is coming closer. We're kind of becoming a small village. So the youth can really use, very close interaction with each other. So now the IYF, how is it bringing the youth together, and particularly South Korean and Ethiopian youth?
Yes. These days, Korean culture becoming very famous, and Korean has diverse culture and also very unique culture, and I think many global society, they understand even the K-pop, the K-music and K-drama is a really hit. The Netflix movie and the global young people's appetites. So we bring the Korean culture, and we also introduce the K culture and K music with K mindset. As you know, Korea has special companies and also very global companies such as Samsung, LG, Hyundai, SK. Those companies, the founders, they had a very good and strong mindset. So we also teach young people how these companies' founder could establish such company and develop up to today's standard. And through sharing different culture, I know the Ethiopian, they love their culture and they love their language and food. But in the global society, we also need to understand the difference and different background, so that we can reduce the conflict and even the troubles amongst the global citizens, each other. So we bring such Korean culture program to introduce the Ethiopian youth, and not only the Korean culture. IYF is a global organization. Our offices are all over more than 100 countries. We do bring foreign volunteers, even from India and even developed countries, Europe and everywhere, even Korea, to Ethiopia for the volunteer activities. So through such association, through such interaction, the Ethiopian youth can have a global insight and global experience of diverse culture and diverse different kind of programs, and from many different races.
All right, Mr. Simon, anything to add on that?
And also to just to add on that, like we IYF yearly every July we host a very special event in South Korea called World Culture. We host about 4,000 youth leaders from 80 different countries. So we host some Ethiopian youth to South Korea, and for about 2 weeks they get to meet the youth from like 79 different countries. And actually this World Camp has been introduced as a global approach to address the youth issues all around the world. That time about 60 ministers from like education and the youth ministry, and 120 presidents of universities, and 70 commissioner generals police and correction service have come, and the 4,000 youth leaders as well. So throughout 2 weeks, just by encountering different culture, languages, like culture like contains like everything, but through attending this special occasion, actually the youth from all around the world get enlightened and impressed, and they also appreciate the other culture and their own culture as well. So even in Ethiopia, we have hosted many Ethiopian youth to South Korea through this program, and after coming back from the camp, and then you can actually tell the difference between the youth who have been to the camp and who have not been to the camp. Like many people testifies that like seeing a new different words is an actually best experience, and since then they actually get to have a different mindset and get to appreciate more of what they have, and also get to hope to challenge themselves for the new word as well. I believe that's one of the way that we IYF has for all the youth in the world to come closer to one another.
That's great. So to end our program actually on a futuristic note and on a larger one, so we've talked about working on the mindset of the youth, and on a larger scale now and talking about leadership trainings, how can the IYF work, on a bigger scale with the Ethiopian government to further its mission and address more and change leadership or impact it in a way? So it's futuristic and it's about what we can expect going forward.
Yes, every government try to develop and enhance the life of their citizen. Mm-hmm. But we do understand they are not able to reach to every part and every corner of their country. So that's the part that the global NGOs such like IYF or the UN organization has to reach. So for that purpose, our founder, Reverend Oksu Park, he's visiting 6 countries, different Africa countries, within this 2 weeks time in March. So when he comes, he usually have pay the courtesy call on the leaders of the country, head of states. Here in Ethiopia, we are also anticipating to have a meeting with His Excellency Prime Minister and also Her Excellency the President, so that we are going to discuss what is the need of Ethiopian government, what is their expectation from our IYF. So with our available human resource or with available programs, we are going to reach throughout the nation through the most effective way, with having hand in hands with Ethiopian government. So we have built a good relationship with many government ministries and the parastatals of government. So we have been doing quite good progress, but for the further progress, I think we need to have the meetings and courtesy call the Prime Minister and the President. Through their meeting, we'll be able to have a realistic plan how we can really help Ethiopia. And through that, we believe that we can reach out to each and every corner, and the part where even government cannot reach, with our available resource through our volunteers, we will be able to reach to every individual so that we can make better Ethiopia. That's what we believe, and that is our ultimate goals and hope.
And eventually towards a better world.
Yes.
All right, so before we wrap it up, let me give you a chance if there's anything you want to add to that.
Firstly, we would like to say thank you for hosting us at this special studio. We, IOIF, and basically based and headquartered in South Korea, we appreciate our relationship between Ethiopia and South Korea. In 1950s, when Korea was suffering from the Korean Civil War, actually at the most difficult time, Ethiopia was the most and only country that sent 6,037 soldiers to assist South Korea for us to gain the freedom from any power. And then till now it has been 73 years, and since then till now South Korea has never ever forgot the sacrifice and integrity the Ethiopia has shown to South Korea. And add on that, the founder of IOIF is one of the most beneficiary, that he was 7 years old when Korea was suffering from the Korean Civil War, and he was the one who was protected by the Ethiopian soldiers. And we highly appreciate the sacrifice and the work and effort that Ethiopia has shown onto us. And even after the war, the Ethiopia did not just leave Korea, but the soldiers were left. They built the orphanage house and assisted and did a lot of community services. And we, South Korea, and on behalf of South Korea, we IOIF want to say thank you so much to Ethiopia. And we, as we are now based in Ethiopia as an IOIF, we want to pay back. We want to contribute what we can for the betterment of Ethiopia. Once again, thank you so much, Ethiopia.
All right, well, thank you both very much for your time today, Simon Yang and Tae-Yoo Kang. Thank you so much for your insights and your time. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And with that, we end today's special program. We've looked into the International Youth Fellowship, its activities, its missions, and more specifically what it's doing in Africa and Ethiopia towards working on the mindset of the youth. And we've also looked at what we can expect for the future in the work that lays ahead with Ethiopia. Thank you once again for having joined us. I was Kirana Baina. Goodbye for now.